Welcome to the Jeff Crilley Show. And now, here's Jeff Crilley.
Good morning, DFW. It's the Jeff Crilley Show. Boy, what a wonderful! It's a fall day. It's crisp. It feels like football. What a great day to be alive. We're going to start with a segment I'm going to call the One Day Novel. And I know my first guest has heard this before. Everybody has a one-day novel. I'm going to write a novel one day, and that day never comes. And so my first guest is Michelle Prince. She is a best-selling author, and she's a book publisher, and she's a longtime friend of the Jeff Crilley Show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm happy to be here. Great to see you.
Well, let's start with how did this start for you?
Well, my background is speaking. I started as I work with Zig Ziglar. I'm a certified trainer and speaker for him. But I always had this story. I always felt like I wanted to motivate, inspire, and encourage people, but it was all inside. And it was 2008 that I decided, you know what? It's not doing anyone any good to keep it all inside. So I wrote my first book. But I had no intention of doing anything with it, but sharing it with my husband, my boys. And it was what came after that that was pretty extraordinary.
Okay, let's talk about that first book. What was the first book?
So the first book was called Winning in Life Now, and it was a story about, it wasn't a story of me being a winner in life. It was the ups and downs of my life and how I use personal development and things I learned from Zig Ziglar to get me through the hard times. And it was just a labor of love. It was something that I would share with a girlfriend or a friend and just, to kind of encourage them and build them up. And Zig, I was so fortunate. He wrote the foreword to the book and encouraged me.
Cool.
And I wrote it. I published it. He wrote the foreword, and I printed it, and I didn't tell a soul.
Really?
Really. Honest to God, true story. Because I had a story, but I still didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know how to get it out there. And so the latter part of the story is building an author platform and really letting people know what you have to offer.
Now, how did that lead to a full book publishing empire?
So I got so into the whole process of publishing. And in fact, and I know you've published before too, there's so many different routes to take, and it's confusing. And I didn't know anything about writing. I didn't know about publishing. And so I became a student of it. And I talked to a lot of publishers, some we both know, and others, just to get an idea of, okay, if I were to traditionally publish this book, what would that look like? What are the steps? How does it happen? Now, through that whole process, though, I learned a lot about publishing. So much so that I decided, wait a minute, if I can do this myself, for myself. And so I built a publishing company, essentially, to publish my own books. But through the process of helping other people to do the same, it just kind of, it was a business that was created not because I had this big grand idea. I wish I could say it was that way. It was because I did it. I proved to others that they could do it, and then it just started to flourish and grow, and now that's what I do full time, helping people get their story out of their head onto paper and get it in the hands of the people that need it.
What does that feel like for you to help birth this baby?
It is amazing because anyone who's ever written a book knows that it's not about the book. It's about the message, and it's about the people that you can help on the other side. And yes, it does help you personally and professionally, no doubt, as you know. But you never know who needs that inspiration, who needs that hope, or who needs whatever your book is about. And it's just a means to an end. So if you truly do want to make a difference, if you do want to help a lot of people, you have to get your message out in the hands of a lot of people. And for me, a book is just one of the easiest ways to do it.
I love it. Okay, let's give some people some advice. What if somebody's listening to this or watching this on YouTube later and they're saying, I think she's talking to me right now. What's the next step?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I want to, if you're thinking it, then know it's true because everyone has a story and every story matters. The first step is figuring out what is your story because there's no limit to the things we could write in a book. And it's important to pick a topic that you have experience with, right? It doesn't have to be work experience. It could be personal experience, but that you're also passionate about. There is nothing worse than to write a book about something you really are not passionate about because I tell people all the time, once you write a book, you're going to be talking about it for a long, long time. So it's a perfect intersection between your passion and your experience. And that combination is powerful. And it's everything you need to write a book. And I'm speaking of nonfiction primarily right here. But everything you need to write a book is already in your head. You just need to know how to get it out of your head on paper and then what the recipe is to get it through publishing.
So tell me about the process. When somebody meets with you for the first time, how do you operate?
First thing we do is typically we get into a room like this and we just map out, we whiteboard, we literally, I'm sitting there pulling the story out of someone's head because most people don't just have a very clear idea of what the book is going to be about. They have some idea, but they don't know how to organize it. And I have a couple exercises that I do that really make that part easy. Then it's a matter of, okay, how are we going to get this book done? Are you going to write it? You don't have to write a book to be an author, believe it or not. Are you going to speak it? I work with a lot of speakers. So if you are going to be out speaking, we can record that, take that, transcribe it, and that's the building of the book. So first, what's your story? Second is what's going to be the easiest, fastest way for you to get it out of your head. And then from there, it's really a matter of the publishing process. And publishing is not rocket science. I mean, there's specific steps in order you need to know, and then it's a matter of getting it produced. And there's options with what type of publishing to do. But that's what I help people navigate, is figuring out what's going to be the best, most effective way for them to help the most enough amount of people and to help their business. And a lot of people use a book as their business card. It's their credibility.
Okay, a lot of people listening right now are saying, I'm sold, I want to sign up with you, but I don't know if I can afford you. Well, give me an idea, a range. So on the low end, what does it take to get a book off the ground?
I always suggest to people, look, why don't you come and learn what the process is first? I believe everyone should have options. You know, I do a seminar called Bookbound or Bookbound by the Sea, and literally it's 3 days of everything you need to know to figure out what your story is, figure out what the publishing process is, and what options do you have, and then finally how to build your author platform. So start there, and that's $500. That's a piece of cake. But I would say if somebody were to hire us to publish their book for them, depending on the kind of book, depending on the reach, and depending on what they want to do with it, I mean, it could be as little as, a couple $1,000s to we have done books that, yeah, of course, if you want to have a book and then New York Times bestseller, then you're looking at a lot more than that.
Right.
But it boils down to the question of, why are you writing the book? You don't know your why and the goal for the book, it doesn't matter. You're not going to be successful. But if you know what you want to achieve with it, is it for friends and family? Is it to get you in Barnes & Noble? Is it to get you on the New York Times bestseller? The process will be different for each.
You've published dozens of titles. Is there one that kind of touches your heart when you talk about, God, I'm so glad that I got into this business and this person is the reason why?
I have so many, but I will give you the one that just comes top of mind. It's a doctor in Idaho that is amazing. He's been practicing alternative holistic medicine for years. People come from all over the world to see him, but he wrote a book about how to cure chronic disease without the traditional methods. And for me, and he wrote that book, and it launched so much for his career, and he's just helping so many more people. He did a cookbook along with it, too. But for me, what was so impactful is it's the reach. He had been practicing for years and years. In fact, his practice is 100 years old, his father, his grandfather, but they couldn't reach the amount of people they're reaching now because of the book. So it's just stuff like that. And, of course, it's pretty cool to be a published author, so he's thrilled. And
very cool.
Yeah.
All right, tell me a story when a person sees their book for the first time and holds it. What's that experience like for you?
Well, tears, a lot of tears. In fact, I remember the first time my books arrived. I remember it like it was yesterday. And I opened it up, and it's, I just cried because, like our friend over here said earlier, it is like birthing a baby. And your book, it's not necessarily what you write about. It's the fact that you did it. That's a huge goal and a huge dream for so many people. So to see it for the first time, it's beautiful. It's a little vulnerable too, I'll be honest, because you're putting yourself out there as an expert. Because the moment you become published, the credibility factor changes. Whether you believe it or not, other people will see you differently. And so to see somebody have that confidence, though, to walk into their greatness and be like, you know what? I do know what to say about this, and I am an expert in this area.
Well,
Pretty awesome.
I can totally vouch for you and what you do because I've sent many authors your way. You do a great job. And I'll say this, had I not written a book, I would not be here today running a PR firm. I would still be a TV reporter. So
wow.
The book opens doors, doesn't it?
It does. And the same information that you knew before the book, you were the same guy then than you are now. But look what a book does. It is your business card. It's the best one you'll ever have.
It is. How often do you speak? I know you mentioned your public speaking career.
So I also do public speaking, whether it's through the Zig Ziglar Corporation or on my own. But I speak several times a week to women's groups, organizations, corporations, typically on the subject of overcoming procrastination. A lot of people procrastinate on a book, but ultimately the reasons to procrastinate on a book or a business or whatever your dream is are the same. And so helping people just get past whatever's holding them back.
I love that. Do you travel?
I do. Though I'm in a season, though, where I don't want to travel as much because I have 2 boys at home, high school and middle school, and there will be a season for that. But I do travel, but I don't want to be a road warrior.
So you said that you specialize in nonfiction.
Mm-hmm.
So are they mostly business books, or what kind of books do you publish?
It's a combination. Generally, so through the process we do, there's always the business card book. I mean, if you are a business owner, you absolutely have to have that. But there are people who want to tell their story. So stories of things they've overcome, stories of things that they want to share with somebody else. A lot of times it's a combination. We've done also a lot of children's books. We've done cookbooks. I've done novels for people, but my specialty is in nonfiction because my goal is to get people to the heart of what their real story is. And it's in there. And when you craft it in a way that you're helping somebody else with that story, that's when you should get it into a book.
And if the author is sitting down trying to write a chapter and the ideas are not flowing, do you have advice for, how it's not procrastination, it's just they're not feeling the muse, they're not feeling the...
I would absolutely have them go back to the original exercise of figuring out what they should write about. A lot of times we pick a topic of something we know, but we're not passionate about it. Those are the books we tend to put on the back burner. I could write a book about sales. Most of my career has been in sales, but the thought of doing it makes me like, oh, I don't want to do that. So get into alignment with what lights you up, that you have experience. And that experience could be bad, meaning that you could have gone through something you don't like, but you're passionate about helping that person who's going through it now. Or it could be something really great, maybe an experience with business or whatever. But make sure the passion's there, because that's probably why some of the ideas aren't flowing.
Wow. Well, unfortunately, we're out of time for this segment, but I love you. You're awesome. You bring such great energy to the show. Thank you.
You make it easy.
Well, how do people get a hold of you? What's your website?
Best way to go is michelleprince.com. It's Michelle, 2 L's, MICHELLEPRINCE. I'm on social media too. And I would love to help anyone that thinks that they're ready to share their story or figure out what that story is.
Michelle, you're so inspiring.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Coming up next, Americans are wired and tired and not getting enough Z's. Most Americans need 7 to 8 hours, but how many of us are actually getting that? A man who's going to give us a wake-up call is next on The Jeff Crilley Show.
More of The Jeff Crilley Show coming up.